What's on, where, and when. It's the Talk of Nelson. NBS Talk Nelson.
At NBS, we believe in banking for life. For over 160 years, we've been a trusted banking provider for generations of locals like you. We know our clients personally and build long-term relationships with them, offering flexibility by giving our staff freedom to make quick decisions to put them first. Experience banking for life with NBS.
The Mako Rugby Roundup.
Welcome to the Mako Rugby Roundup. I'm Chris Butler. Welcome back, Les Edwards.
Yeah, good to be here, my friend.
Very colourful shirt, that one, isn't it?
Yes, a Guam Rugby Football Union shirt from the early 2000s.
Early 2000s, right?
Yeah, they were a colourful bunch over there.
And they were nice and warm, those jerseys too, weren't they? They weren't these silky types. We're thrilled to bring you all things rugby in the top of the South. And before we dive in, we must give a shout out to our venue sponsor, the Turf Hotel Main Road, Stoke, and wish them all the best for the forthcoming weekend. Normally a whole heap of stuff on, so you must check out their Facebook page, including, presumably, they'll have the meat raffle on Sunday, the famous meat raffle. We're very pleased to welcome back to the show the Tasman Mako coach, Gray Cornelius. Great to have you here, mate.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Managed to have a good trip over the hill?
Yep, came over this morning. Know that drive pretty well by now.
Yeah, that's right.
You got it blindfolded.
Pretty much, yeah.
Marlborough on fire, was it? Nice sunshine over
always beautiful day.
Always beautiful over that way. Mate, before we get into talking about the season, must talk about the quarterfinal. Probably don't want to start there, but I mean, tell us about your thoughts going into the match and then obviously during the match, and what did you say to the guys at halftime, and your summary of the game, really, I guess.
Yeah, obviously it goes without saying, didn't go the way we really wanted it to go.
Yeah.
I think I said immediately after the game, Canterbury probably played their best game of the season, and we probably played our worst. So it happened sometime, and as a coaching group straight away after the game, we reflected on what we could have done different, or if we could have managed the week any better. We couldn't really put our finger on anything, to be honest. It was just, one of those games where I think Canterbury started really well, and we were already a bit beat up. And I think after about 30 minutes, we had made 90-odd tackles to their 10, and I think that probably just accumulated. They got points on the board, and then all of a sudden we're having to play catch up, and they played pretty well, and they're a class team. And
two things this season for me was that when a team, Counties Manukau was a good example. When they got on a roll, the scores tend to blow out. So when it goes a team's way, I've noticed that in Test rugby, that and the other team isn't quite able to cope, or maybe they're tired because of defence, that the scores do tend out to blow out a bit these days.
Yes.
And we've noticed that throughout the season. The other thing too that was talked about on the commentary, I listened to it on the commentary, was just how many tackles the Mako had to make, and they must be just feeling really tired by the end of it.
Yeah, I think we ended up making over 300 tackles that game.
Jeez, yeah.
And we conceded obviously far too many points from what we like, but if you look at some of the tackle stats, we had guys well high in the 20s making tackles, and tackle percentages were pretty good. But we just couldn't get our hands on the ball, and that's credit to Canterbury and the way they played. And it was just a shame that we finished the season like that. But yeah,
it is what it is, isn't it?
Yeah, and a couple of key players that ended up missing out on. Ethan Blackadder, of course, pulling out with a calf muscle injury, and then losing, I think, one of your better ball carriers all year in Fletcher Anderson. After the kickoff, that must have been particularly galling for you.
Yeah, it was, and saying that, we went into the game with full confidence with the fellas we had. I think that was probably one of the hallmarks of our season. We had a lot of setbacks and adversity throughout the year, and whichever guy came in did the job for us. So, obviously would have loved to have those fellas in a few more, but that's just the nature of the competition, particularly that end of the season. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it was a bit of timing, wasn't it? Because it was the end of Storm Week, and we're going to talk about Storm Week, but also, just this weekend gone, Canterbury lose quite a few players to national honours, and they're back to a normal squad. And, it was a good game, but both plenty just too strong at the end of the day, and does make you wonder, doesn't it, whether it was a bit more of an even keel. But, I mean, your guys, the common thing throughout the season has been, no matter the circumstances, we back ourselves. So.
Yeah, and that's what we want to encourage with the fellas, and just back their instincts. And I think on the whole we did that. It was just a bridge too far in the end. But I honestly think we had the potential there to go all the way. It was just it wasn't to be.
So with regard to the season, played 11, won 8, made the quarterfinals, made the top 8. That's always important. Also, 29 days of holding one of the great taonga of New Zealand rugby in the Ranfurly Shield as well. So, Matt, how do you rate your season?
Yeah, it was good. It was really good. We had a lot of fun, and you talk about the results, which are good. But the thing I probably reflect on is just the feeling amongst the group, and the culture and the way we worked hard for each other, and some of the moments that we had in our games, whether it was cover tackles or saving tries or just working hard. And those are the things that give me the most pleasure, actually. And just the, I guess it's a bit of a cliche or a modern word, but the vibe amongst the group, the lads were all pretty tight, and coaches were already tight. And so that's what I'll remember with most fondness. It was a lot of fun, and we worked hard for one another. Yeah.
We actually commented on that. It looked like a really happy squad on and off the park, and very much enjoying themselves and each other's company. So, look, I think it was a much better season than 2023. And, both years you made the quarterfinal, but this one felt, smelt, and looked better than last year.
Yeah, and that's pretty much due to the players themselves. It was a really harmonious group this year. It wasn't 2 or 3 personalities. It was everybody buying, and everybody trusting one another. And that's I think that is probably you can't put a price on that and that culture. That's that sort of stuff that gets you that extra tackle, that extra getting off the ground a little bit faster. And when we look at some of our wins, that we're up against some pretty good opposition, and when we just got over the line, it's all those little things that the TAB can't factor that in.
Right. That's good.
That was really pleasing as a coach to see those qualities in the fellas, and all due to the work they do as well.
Well, let's talk about building that team and that culture, because at the start of the season, you were given the full reins. So traditionally for the last, 2 or 3 seasons, it's been a co-coach model. But this time, you were handed the full reins. And so can you tell us a little bit about, that difference, or what you found, because you've been in both environments.
Yeah.
And the difference between, you're having to, I guess, share that experience with someone else, but now pretty much, being solely responsible at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that change for you?
Yeah, it's been different, certainly. I think Dan and I had we have a really close relationship, so it was good whenever decisions have to be made. Last year, we're pretty aligned, and we'd just sit down and have a coffee and yarn about things, and generally we come to the same conclusion. So it was good just to thrash things out. And there's probably something I learned this year. Again, got a really good coaching crew. Like the coach and the management were really tight, and we're quite collaborative in what we do. But there are a couple of occasions where actually a decision had to be made, and I'm still learning that as I go. My first gig at this level. Sure, would I didn't get it right all the time, but that's just learning, and that's just part of the gig.
Yeah.
But did you enjoy it?
I did. Yeah, I loved it. But like I say, it's very easy when you've got the management crew around you, but also the players. Like mate, as a coach, you get the right players, there's half your job done. And the leadership group was awesome. The way everybody backed each other up and backed myself up as head coach makes my job a lot easier.
Yeah, because it kind of feels like a common theme that one of the abilities that the Mako have had is being able to establish a culture and see that through season after season, because I mean, that's from the outside, because it doesn't always happen that way. Even if you have best intentions, for some reason, things just don't gel, or personalities don't gel, and you can't read that until you actually get into it. But for you guys, you seem to be able to find and maintain that culture.
Yeah, it's kind of self-fulfilling. It's been there for years, and years and years. And so, people that come into our environment see how things are done, experience how things are done. And so that's just how we roll, and so that just rolls over year after year. And people come and go, but everybody puts their own spin on it, puts their own flavor on it. But I think, yeah, it's probably something like I said before. We talk about our successes in terms of whether it's a shield or matches won and stuff. But for me, just as important as that continuation of who we are and what we represent and how we do things. That's probably trumps everything, because I think if you get that right, then, like I say, you're going to win more than you lose, and you're going to have fun, and you're going to get better. So, yeah.
A lot of people will forget that at the start of the year, when you're starting to really put your plans in place, there isn't a CEO.
Mm-hmm. I haven't forgot.
You haven't forgotten that. So how were you dealing with that? Going through all of those processes that you had to do, appointments you had to make. How were you dealing with that?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. It was tough. It was pretty, sort of lacking that guidance. So leaned pretty heavily on, like I say, on fellow staff and people around me, and particularly Kahu Mafel, who was in that role. And I'm not sure if he's been truly recognised appropriately around the effort and time and energy he put in, but I was working pretty closely alongside him, because it was all new to him, it was all new to me. And it was a fair bit of trial and error. But it was tough, but we got there in the end, didn't we? So, yeah.
Well, you both worked hard. You had good work ethic. You were doing long hours. I know Kahu was doing much longer hours than any man should be doing, plus his own job as community rugby manager. So I thought the effort you guys put in, despite not having that boss in the chair, was very, very good.
Yeah, and I mean, like, it wasn't just the boss in the chair; it was kind of that uncertainty around things as well, which nobody likes to work in that sort of, I guess, that sort of environment. But we just had to box on and do the best we could. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, for Kahu, I mean, might have either given him a bit of confidence that maybe he could have a role like that one day, or put him off for life. So
you'd have to get him on.
We'll have to have a chat to him.
Yeah.
But amongst all of that, you have to put this team, this squad, this management group together, and you must be particularly pleased with the way that the coaching team came together. Hawani McDonald, Tom Marshall, and this guy called Aaron Dundon that wanders over from Ireland. And what we kept on saying is that even though a lot of the ex-Mako team players and team management are off now overseas in different clubs all over the place, they seem to be having coffees with each other and actually forwarding, pushing people the Mako way. So can you tell us about those guys and them coming into the squad? And did you have to convince them, or were they lining up, or how did that work?
Oh, obviously Hawani's been this is Hawani's third year, so he didn't need any convincing. Like he's been awesome for our group this year, and he's been there, like I say, 3 years, and he's just growing and growing and growing, and he's a guy who I work pretty closely with over in Blenheim, so we're always bouncing ideas off each other, and he's a good man for me to talk to, and we help each other out. And then we're on the lookout for a replacement for Dan, and as you say, Aaron came online via Goody and had good reps, and I thought it would be really cool to get a guy who is really keen to grow, but also some different ideas from overseas, and he was really good too. He came in, and I liked the way he just came in and observed and watched how we went and fitted in. But then as the season progressed, he got more and more confident, and so he started to implement more of his ideas and stuff, to the point where at the end of the season, he was starting to coach things the way he wanted them coached, and and got a lot of respect from the boys. And finally, the final piece of the puzzle was Tom Marshall, who obviously transitioning from player to coach is always a bit of a how's he going to go, but mate, he's been outstanding, and not only his ability to grow and coach the boys, like from a guy who's had little coaching background to just step in and go like that, but also his ability to take workload off all of us other coaches. Like last year, we only had 3 coaches, and it was tough. So to have that 4th coach and a guy of his expertise come in and the way he's handled himself has been awesome to see.
Yeah. So Hugh Bainham was telling us that you last year had to do your co-head coach role plus the backs, whereas this year you were able to have that freed up.
Yeah,
that time freed up to concentrate on what you needed to get done.
Yeah, so it helps when you're not trying to do 4 jobs half cocked, just to focus on a couple. And it's been, like I say, it's been awesome to have that extra coach, and just makes everybody's life a bit easier. But more importantly, he's a good coach, and the backs of some of the boys have just grown under his tutelage, and good to get him back.
Yeah, I mean, both Willie Havili and Macca Springer talked about that, didn't they? Because, from Willie's point of view, I mean, Tom has had a bit of a run at times at 10, and it's that those decisions when to kick, but also, Macca talking about when to run, when to hold it, when to run, those kind of things. And because Tom has had, so much experience, he just found it invaluable to have him there.
Yeah. And he relates well to the boys. He's only just finished, whereas some of us guys are a bit longer.
The old boys.
We've been out of the game for a while now, and we're not down with the kids all the time. So Tojo, he's got a good way with the fellas, and it's a good balance across our coaching group. So hopefully we can keep that in place next year.
Yeah.
So Tom's interested in continuing as a coach. It didn't drive him spare.
You'd have to get Tom on this program. I hope so.
Yeah, let's hope so. So then we're into it, and Steve Mitchell turns up. So he's now in the chair. He's the CEO. What did he have to say to you when he arrived? Because you're already knee deep in preparations.
Oh, look, he bit like what I talked about, Aaron. He just came in and gave us confidence to do our thing, and basically just had a few quiet words here and there, like how we can help and how we can support. But I know the fellas really appreciated the fact that he made effort to come and be around the group and be part of what we're doing and have his finger on the pulse. So it's been good. It's been good having someone there. Yeah.
Well, he comes from a good background, of course, having done the role for 4 years at Southland, so he certainly knows his way around the role, and it's great that you and the players appreciated him, because I think he's a terrific guy. He's just a straight shooter, but if he can help fix a problem, he will. He's a solutions-driven guy.
That's it.
And he never really was going to get an opportunity to make huge changes straight in. He even said himself when we had him on that, this was really about learning and seeing and looking and looking for opportunities. So now he's got a full pre-season and a full season to plan for, and he can start building a business plan and a business case. And so that's only positive going forward. But I did wonder that whether he'd just sort of leave you to it, but then be there if you needed him. So we have to say, and we commented right throughout the season, we've talked about the culture, but just, you only lost 2 games. When you look at it that way, apart from the quarters, you lost 2 games for the season. And if you had said at the start of the season, with what you had to put together under the circumstances you had, that you're only going to have 2 losses for the season, you'd probably take that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you would. Although we've got a board up in our team room, and it's got the draw, and you tick off everyone that you win, and as only coaches can, you always look at the 2 that you didn't. And they're the ones that always draw my attention. They're the ones that bug me. But
so the players, you've talked about the fact they came together, but both in the forwards and the backs. Are there any particular stories for you that stood out for you? I know you don't want to play favourites
No.
and mention names. But is there anyone in particular that you thought, just grew another leg this year under, put in a circumstance to do so?
I obviously got to make mention of our player of the year, Jim Tavatavanawai. Like he's been outstanding both sides of the ball, but what you don't see is what he's brought to our team off the field. Like he's grown as a leader. The way he presents in front of the boys and talks has been really cool to see that growth in him. I was just a bit dark the other week when he missed out on higher honours. Like I'm not sure what more he has to do. Like he's been outstanding for us, so he'd probably be one. But if you're looking at forwards, a guy like Ryan Cox and Antonio Shalfoon, similar situation. We all see what they do on the field, but what how they've grown off the field has been awesome, and their leadership roles and how they've matured as young men, and what they provide and add to our culture has been pretty cool. And probably one other guy I talked to is Finley Christie as well. Like obviously massive disappointment for him not to be with the All Blacks, and again we all agree he should be there, but we're happy to have him back. But the way he came back in and was still could easily have dropped lip, I suppose, but the way he came back in straight away and was fully invested in what we're doing and how we wanted to do it, and how he ended up captain and the way he led the boys was pretty cool as well to see.
What about rookies, Gray?
Yep.
Among the 17 guys who got a Mako start this year, who are the ones that you just went, wow, they're playing beyond their maturity?
You put me on the spot a bit there, Liz, because there are a few of them.
Well, I'll help you.
Yeah, help me.
So Kyron Tamafalau.
Yep.
Played 10 games, I think. Just an outstanding prospect. 21 years old, already played for Tonga. You must be hoping he's around your camp for a long, long time to come.
Yeah, like it was good to have. It's always a good story, isn't it, having a local lad come through a different path, but end up being able to fulfill one of his dreams, and that was to play for the Mako. And he's certainly grown. We can all see what he can do. Ball in hand's pretty impressive, and he knows that there's parts of his game that if he wants to take it to the next level, he's going to have to develop. And let's hopefully we can develop those here through the Mako. So
yeah. And another one that we liked watching was Johnny Lee. The back rower, not a very big looking man when you see him in the flesh, but gosh, he plays big. Yeah,
Johnny's got a big future. Like obviously some of our like Hawani had a bit to do with him with the Crusaders in the 20s, and that's probably where we first had eyes on him. But again, he's a guy who's obviously got pretty cool talents, physical talents, but again, he's got good leadership potential as well, and he's a top kid and he learns fast. So he'd be one to keep an eye on, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think he's a leader type player. He's just got a mindset that comes through staunch. So the Ranfurly Shield, Gray, what a moment. What a moment.
Yeah.
Winning that turnover. Thank you, Jimmy Tavatavanawai. Thank you, Campbell Parada, you hero, for kicking the goal. And then two excellent defences. And then finally, maybe the bridge too far because of Storm Week against Tana. But your reflection on those 29 days and those 4 games?
Yeah, like we said to the boys, that's something you remember for forever. That game against Hawke's Bay was an emotional roller coaster. But we were actually reflecting on it the other night. We had a bit of a barbecue as coaches, and it's pretty cool.
Well, you had a good lead, didn't you? 9-5.
Well, I was actually thinking about that coming over, like the margins. Like I knew you were going to talk about how many wins you had, and I feel like saying, well, if Campbell misses that kick, all of a sudden we've gone from a magical win to bottling. We've become chokers or something. But fine margins. Yeah. But you got to ride those when you can, because you know that. Yeah, one day it might not go your way. So
Billy kicking a goal on one leg against Waikato.
That's right.
That was a hard case as well. So it's some good memories.
Got cramp as he went to kick it, didn't it? Just got over.
But did you enjoy taking the Shield around? Your community.
Loved it. Like none of us. I don't think the boys quite understood the effect it might have, and I knew it would have an effect, but I didn't. Not the effect that I thought it was going to have. It was amazing. Like a bit of wood and. The amount of people that stopped you and wanted to touch it because they're great granddad had challenged for it for Butler against,
Yeah.
Otago or something back in 1940 something. Oh wow, this is pretty cool. Like, yeah, it was awesome to see how it invigorated rugby around the place.
Well, it was interesting for me because obviously for Nelsonians, we've never had it, so, and for Les and I, we're talking about we might not get another chance to get our hands on it. Let's hope so, Gray. But
Yeah, hope so.
For Marlborough, it was the stories that we heard on the radio. Everyone was ringing up and talking about, going to the games in the 1970s as a kid, or and the defences. So they'd had a taste of it, and what they were itching for was to get it back into the region, and there was the opportunity. So for us both to be able to share that experience was just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
And like you say, it might have meant more to us than it did to the players, because
I think the players, once they saw how much it meant, they were all in, and they loved the experience. And it's funny, like living in Blenheim, living in Marlborough for the last 25 years, whatever it is, like it was always 73, 73.
That's right.
You go into every pub and there's a picture of the 73 team.
That's
and
right.
So it was really cool to, as a Mulberrian, to take it back over there and show some of the guys that played in that.
And that they
team.
could never take your name off the team card,
No.
right? Coach of a
cool.
winning Ranfurly Shield team.
That's right. And also, though you were able to defend it against Wellington and Blenheim, and my word, they were great supporters in the grandstands for that win, because that was you're playing next week's finalist. They're coming after your Shield a week after winning it.
Yeah, that one, in a funny kind of way, that was almost as special as the game against Hawke's Bay, because we knew that Wellington was a very good team, and there was a bit of pressure there to turn around 6 or 7 days, or no, it was a bit longer than that. Take away the 2 days celebrating. It was going to be a difficult. But again, that just goes back to our lads and how hard they worked in that time, and can't give them enough credit.
We had the defence against Auckland as well, which was a big match because they posted on their Facebook page straight after you winning the game against Hawke's Bay that we're coming to get the Shield. And, that was a dreary night, but another fantastic win. But that kind of leads into Storm Week. And, actually, obviously the Auckland game was in the middle of Storm Week, but it brings up that period where, so the first positive was that there was this young side that went down to Otago, and talking, with the captain last week, with Quinton last week, he just loved that. He said what a great experience it was, and also the fact that the lads almost pulled it off, and give them another year, he said, and they'll win that match. So tell us about those rookies and what they did.
Yeah, that was again, that was another special highlight for us. I think we had to pretty much, we reflected on Storm Week last year, and we had a Ranfurly Shield challenge in the middle of Storm Week last year, and we had important games either end. So we kind of took the view that let's roll out the big dogs, 3 games in a row, and it didn't work, and we paid for it at the back end of the season. So we knew we had to do something different. And then obviously the Shield came along, which helped put a whole different spin on it again. So we had to be brave with our selections and stuff, and give these guys a crack. And we were rewarded with what we saw down there, and it was just a real shame we didn't manage to pull that off. But again, I keep on going back to it, but the way some of those older boys helped set the younger boys up during that week, and bought into what we were trying to achieve, was pretty cool to see as well. And
Louis Chapman being a big part of that. You gave him the captaincy, and he really drove them. And led them superbly. Scored his first try for Mako as well. That was a big moment, right? So and 8-9 debutants, some of whom we're definitely going to see again, aren't we?
I hope so. Yeah, no, they certainly showed their worth, and they all know that what's that saying? One swallow doesn't make a summer or something like that. So they know it's just a start. Yeah. But it was a really good step in the right direction, and hopefully that's given them a taste now. They know how we do things. They know what's required and the level of preparation that's required for in a game week. So yeah, hopefully they're hungry for more.
Yeah, that's right. And it builds that depth, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And then on to the Auckland Challenge. It was a dreary night, but you know, a good win. And the thing that impressed us throughout the season was just the way the 4-pack handled themselves against, you know, what would consider to be, you know, bigger packs, especially the Auckland pack and the Wellington pack. But they really stood up defensive-wise, and we kept on talking about Hawani, didn't we, and his defence and what he brought to the table. But then a classy Taranaki side on the Sunday. So, you know, and then into the quarters. So in reflection, do you think that, you know, that Storm week at that time of the year did end up having a big impact both for the Taranaki game and for the quarterfinal?
Oh, for sure. Like, Storm week has an impact on you regardless if it's first week or last week. Like, Storm week's a pig. Like like I'm sure you'll talk to every provincial union around the country, and I don't think there'll be anybody who thinks it's a good idea. It doesn't make sense on player welfare. It doesn't make sense commercially. It just doesn't make sense. So I'm not really sure of the rationale around it. Like, in terms of, we knew everybody has a Storm week. So we're not using Storm week as an excuse because we knew where it was. We knew it was coming. Everybody has to go through it. So it is what it is. But I just don't think it's healthy for the competition. Yeah.
Well, we got a solution for that, haven't we?
To be fair though, Storm week at the end, and then throw in 2 Shield challenges or 2 Shield defences. That just magnifies the intensity of playing 3 games in 8 days.
It does, but we wanted to be in that position, right? Like, if we had the choice of having 2 Shield challenges in a Storm week, we'd take that. We'd take that every day of the week. So, like, we've got no problem with. I don't have a problem. And I'd never use Storm week as an excuse, because, like I say, every team has to do it. I just think that, you know, if New Zealand Rugby is serious about this competition, then get rid of it, and make it a better competition for everybody.
Yeah, but what did Neil Barnes say to you, the Taranaki coach? He came in and had a quiet word with you, didn't he, after the game? Yeah,
like, he just said exactly those sentiments as well. Like, it's pretty rugged, but you can't do much about it now.
No. The solution is, of course, getting rid of quarterfinals.
Yeah.
Because that's the extra week. When the unions decided they wanted the commercial payoff of quarterfinal rugby, that meant that a Storm week had to happen because there's no extension to the 12 weeks. So
what they're doing in Super Rugby. So my suggestion was to, you worked it out, didn't you? Top 2 sides have a bye. And then, you know, if you're 3rd or 4th, you get a second bite of the cherry. So that, like the league, like the rugby league. Yeah. So that gives you an extra week.
I slept on that, Chris, and it doesn't give you an extra week.
Oh, doesn't it?
No, it's still a 3-week playoff regardless.
Right. But to me, the problem I had with it that we talked about last week was the fact that you go a whole season and you pretty much lose only 2 games, and it comes down to 1 match and you're gone. You know, that's pretty harsh, and especially at the end of Storm week. So I wondered whether it was worth, you know, we'll check out, see how the Super Rugby method goes, because they're going to be bringing that in. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, it's above my pay grade to organise all the stuff, but just get rid of it. Just get rid of it however you can, and I think everyone will be happy. Yeah.
Gray said it's a pig, and he's right.
Yes.
So post-season.
Yep.
Clearly, you'd be going through reviews and just a bit of a explainer on what you're going through.
Yeah, so obviously we sit down with our players one-on-one and just have a yarn around. It's actually driven mainly by them around, first of all, how they felt the season went, but what they want to keep or what they want to work on, their strengths and then their weaknesses and how we can help, and then just a wee bit of a plan around what's coming up for them, whether it's returning to Super or whatever it may be. So we did that back into last week, and then as coaches and management and all the different areas, medical, strength and conditioning, we all sort of sit down and have a bit of a chin wag around what we could do better or what we did well and that kind of stuff. So going through that at the moment, just compiling all that information, and then players will obviously feedback on us and how they think things went. That'll drive a lot of what we do in the next 4 or 5 months leading into next year. Yeah.
So when does Steve and the board start making decisions about next season?
In terms of,
well, just in terms of contracts and who's going to be doing what.
So that's pretty much continuing now.
So
those conversations happen pretty. Yeah, those conversations kind of happened back end of the season, and that's what I guess that's my my job now is to have a lot of those conversations and do a lot of that organising now.
So my final question is, first of all, what are you doing in the off season? But my next question will be, what are you doing next season?
I can answer the first one. I'll be looking forward to eventually closing my laptop lid, and just getting away from footy for a few weeks. No doubt, after a week I'll get itchy again. Lift up the laptop, but that's the first one. What was the second question?
Next year.
What are you doing next season?
Oh, look, I hope to be back, and like I said at the start, I hope to have all the other coaches back and our players back, and hopefully we can go that extra couple of steps and get the job done. That'll be a dream. Sure.
Well, we asked that question of you last year, and it was a similar answer, and you were back, and you only lost 2 games in the season, which you've got to be congratulated, because considering with what you faced at the start of the season, being able to pull it all together and achieve that, I think it was a tremendous season all round. And by the sounds of it, the players absolutely loved it.
Yeah, and I think that's important. I'll say it again. I thought this team and the way we played looked cohesive, and everyone was on the same page. Everyone was happy. There was clarity in the way we were playing. The Mako work rate in defence was amazing. Yeah, it was just a very, very good year. So, in my opinion, you should be back.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, and thank you for those compliments. It's very much a team effort, and I might be the head coach in name, but certainly the work that's gone on behind the scenes from everybody plays a massive role in the buy-in from the lads in particular. So. Yeah.
Good stuff. All right. Well, we're going to take the heat off here, because now the heat's on the final. Wellington versus Bay of Plenty. So Bay of Plenty 32 over Canterbury. As we mentioned before, Canterbury, they did go back to, I guess, the normal squad, whatever you call it. But, Bay of Plenty at home, it's a bit like Hawke's Bay, isn't it? The whole town comes out, and they love playing in front of the home team. And I can't remember how it was the 70s that they last
76. I think they won the inaugural
won their NPC. So they'll there's an opportunity here. So, and then quite a close game, quite a close tussle between Wellington and Waikato. And Waikato, they started to peak at the right end of the season, didn't they? And at times they were ahead in Wellington on the board, but Wellington found a way. And a lot of Wellington games have been like that, where they've actually been the formed side, the favourites, but been in trouble a few times, but found a way to win. And so there you go, Wellington versus Bay of Plenty. It is in Wellington. The Boppers have to travel.
Yeah, so...
What do you think?
I think it's a great final. The difference between Wellington that played us for the Shield and this Wellington is Duplessis Korefi. He's back at 7, and he is just a nuisance of a player. Won them so much turnover ball, to fight off Waikato, who in the middle stages of that game looked really hot. 2 good teams, Wellington well-deserved victors in the end. So, look, hometown advantage is always important from the point of view of the support you get, the support and the vibe that can transcend down to the referee, right? So I'll pick Wellington to win this in a really fascinating close game.
All right, Gray, what do you think? Thoughts? You've battled against them throughout the season, so what are your thoughts?
I'd like to see Bay of Plenty win it. I think it'd be cool for it to be won by back in the provinces, so to speak. And I think that you look at their fan base and kind of similarities to us in many regards, I suppose. But and I guess the underdogs, I think maybe Wellington just might have a bit too much depth, and I'll probably back them to get the job done. But my heart will be hoping for them to get done.
Their forward pack against Waikato, when they thought, geez, we need to do something here, they were pretty vicious, weren't they, against the line? They stepped up a level. So, well, you both picked Wellington, so I've got to go for Bay of Plenty.
Yeah, good man. And we will applaud you if you're right, because as Gray says, the provinces like us, Taranaki, Bay of Plenty, we've got to stick together, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And then interesting, we're getting into the Northern Tour, so New Zealand and Japan take each other on Saturday, 10-7, and so Ethan Blackadder, he's completely out of it. Or will he get on a plane at some point? Do we know? Or
talking to Ethan, that's unsure at the moment. Obviously, he's recovering from his calf injury, so I think it'll depend on how quickly that occurs, and hopefully he gets it right enough to get over there and get the back end of that tour.
It's just bad luck with the injury, isn't it? It's just it's the rubber bands need to be stretched somehow, and just has all sorts of issues with it, doesn't he? Yeah, but he takes things in his stride, doesn't he?
Yeah, no, he's got a pretty good mindset towards the ball, and he works pretty hard on every aspect of his game. So I'm sure he'll be working hard to get himself right, hopefully to feature at the back end of the tour.
And will Eddie Jones pull out some wily old Fox moves, or?
Oh, I think they'll play interesting rugby, mate. There'll be all sorts of razzle dazzle occasionally, but they just won't be strong enough to beat the All Blacks.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming in and coming to see us, Gray. Once again,
worries.
We appreciate that. And once again, congratulations on a great season.
Thank you.
We hope you get a great break over the summer period and smell the roses a bit, and then obviously we look forward to hopefully seeing you back in the seat for next year. And as you point out, maybe taking it one or two steps further, maybe all the way.
Yeah, hopefully. Thanks very much for your time. Cheers.
And Les, our last podcast for 2025.
Yes, a good 26 episodes this year. So
I know.
Started with club rugby, worked its way through to the end of the Mako season. So just absolutely fantastic. Some great guests, and some great insights and conversations. I just like the way that people like Gray are prepared to come here and just be themselves and tell us the way it is.
Yeah, and to their benefit, I mean, when we had Hugh on, he talked about the Giants podcast, and how, in actual fact, those that follow it closely do want to hear from those behind the scenes and what happens, and go into a bit more depth about the players and those kind of things. So we get good feedback. So I think we've made the call already. We'll be signing for 2025.
Yeah, I heard you got a new the venue sponsor.
We'll make announcements in the new year. Never agree to anything until it's signed on the dotted line. So Les, thank you very much for all your hard work and great research, and also all the fantastic guests that you sign up. You're going to have a nice relaxing summer break.
Yes, I am. I'm going to enjoy the sun. I have a big birthday coming up in the end of December. My family will be home. I'll look forward to it.
Yeah, lovely. All right. Well, thank you. All the best, mate. And we look forward to seeing you in some capacity next year. Must thank our venue sponsor, the Turf Hotel, and Stan and the team. They've been absolutely fantastic. They couldn't be more supportive, and we really appreciate having them on board. And thanks to our listeners and everyone else that gives us feedback. We really, really appreciate it. There you have it, folks. That's it for 2024. You can catch this podcast and others on talknelson.co.nz. We'll actually be replaying some interviews over the summer period, so listen out for those. So what have we said? Website, Spotify, MBS Talk Nelson, and also social media channels, Facebook and Instagram. Have a great summer. We'll see you again in 2025.
The Mako Rugby Roundup. What's on, where, and when. It's the Talk of Nelson. NBS Talk Nelson.